Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. This week, we got into a really fascinating stack of sources, a whole collection of research, some essays, some private notes even, that, well, they fundamentally challenge the way we think about achievement.
They really do.
And for you, the learner who's always trying to absorb new stuff and find that next efficiency hack, this deep dive is, I think, crucial because it offers a shortcut to the one thing that actually sustains high performance.
Stability.
Stability, exactly.
Yeah.
Our sources kick off with this powerful, almost unsettling core idea. It's that most people don't fail spectacularly.
Right. There's no big crash and burn.
No, there's no single massive dramatic collapse. You know, that one mistake that just ends a career or derails a life. Instead, they drift. They drift slowly, quietly through these small, almost invisible neglects. They just stop maintaining the very systems that keep life stable.
And it's not about being lazy. The sources are so clear on this.
Not at all. It's not about lacking talent or burning out from working too hard. They call it systemic decay.
That analogy of systemic decay is perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're really being asked to do is shift our whole definition of success.
From what to what?
Well, the world celebrates peak performance, right? The big win, the dramatic breakthrough.
The highlight reel.
The highlight reel, exactly. But this material challenges us to redefine success as sustained stability.
I like that. Sustain stability.
Think about it. Decay is passive. It takes zero effort. You leave a building alone and, time and weather will pull it down.
Right.
But structure, that requires active daily reinforcement. So our mission today is to analyze these 10 life support systems. And these aren't just like motivational habits or simple routines.
No, they're non-negotiable.
They're non-negotiable structural elements that decide, in the long run, whether your life just quietly falls apart or if it compounds inevitably toward what you want. We're focusing on the boring work, the unseen essential work of maintenance.
Maintenance. I love that framing. It's like once you build the thing, the real work is just keeping it clean.
Yeah.
Keeping it functional.
Yes.
It's about staying aligned, staying stable. And that, ironically, makes you far more dangerous
Right.
in a productive sense than someone who's just riding these waves of motivation.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the absolute foundation, the emotional and relational baseline. Okay, so system number one is attitude. And the definition they give here it immediately grabbed my attention. We all think of attitude as a temporary feeling, right?
You're like, did I get enough sleep? Or did I hit all the green lights on my way to work?
Exactly. We see it as reactive.
And that is the exact misconception the sources are trying to dismantle. Attitude is not what you feel in the moment. It is your emotional posture. It's the mental baseline that your mind defaults to when results are slow, when your phone is silent, when you're facing a delay, and, crucially, when no one is watching to pat you on the back.
So it's the default setting.
It's the default setting of your internal operating system.
Wow. So you're saying it's the difference between a reaction and a posture. A reaction is temporary. You're impatient because you missed a flight.
Exactly. That's a state. But posture is the trait. It's the permanent framework you apply to all the neutral events in your life.
Can you give me a real-world scenario? Like, how does that actually show up?
Okay, sure. Imagine two people. They're facing the exact same problem. A huge project they've worked on for 6 months is suddenly delayed by some external issue.
Okay, same event.
Identical event. The person with a poor posture, a decaying attitude, they will default immediately to irritation, impatience. They'll personalize it.
Why is this happening to me?
Why me? This is an insult to my hard work. All their energy just leaks out into complaining, venting, mentally arguing with a situation they can't change.
Right. And the person with the maintained posture.
They feel the frustration, of course, that's human. But their internal baseline, their posture, interprets the event differently. Their default is, okay, this is a puzzle, this is a task, this is a timing problem.
Not a personal attack.
Not a personal attack. So they conserve their energy. And that tiny difference in interpretation is everything. It determines how long you let frustration live in your body and dictate your next move.
That phrase, how long frustration stays in the body, that's so key. And I love this idea that attitude decays naturally. It almost sounds like we're fighting our own biology here.
We are. We're fighting the negativity bias. That's the mechanism of decay. I mean, our brains evolved to see threats, right? We remember the one negative comment way more than the 10 positive ones.
Oh, for sure.
So negativity is passive. It's a path of least resistance. It's what kept us safe. Optimism, resilience, stability. That stuff requires maintenance. It's a learned behavior. If you skip that daily reset, the mind just defaults back to irritation, to comparison, to defensiveness.
And the sources were very careful to say, this doesn't make you a bad person.
Not at all. It just makes you unmaintained.
Let's linger on the silent cost of that, because I think most people just assume a bad attitude makes them unhappy. But the sources suggest it's actually destroying opportunity.
It's corrosive. A poor attitude doesn't blow up opportunities with a loud bang. It repels them quietly.
Oh, so?
People, your clients, your colleagues, they feel it before they can even explain it. They pick up on the heavy sigh, the subtle defensiveness in an email, the impatience in your voice.
And they think, this person is high friction.
Exactly. And so they subconsciously start to pull away. They avoid your calls. Their replies get shorter. They offer less help. Your momentum doesn't stop. It slows down subtly. You stop attracting help, and you often have no idea why that client went with someone else.
The compounding effect of that over years must be just brutal. You're working harder and harder, but the world is giving you less and less to work with.
That's it. And the most dangerous trap is that problems are neutral, but they respond to your posture. The wrong attitude makes a small problem feel heavy and personal. The right attitude turns a huge problem into just a task, a puzzle, a timing issue.
It shifts the question from why me to
What does this require of me? And that frames it as an engineering problem, not an emotional drama.
So how do you train this? You can't just force yourself to feel positive.
No, you train it through repetition of action, not emotion. You practice interpretation every single day. It's conditioning. You choose the meaning you attach to events.
So when something negative happens,
You practice the pause. You consciously choose how long you stay emotionally hooked. If today you're hooked for 3 hours, tomorrow you aim for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
a small adjustment.
A tiny adjustment. You practice seeing a failure not as proof that you're an idiot, but as data. Complaining, blaming, those are just energy leaks. You plug the leaks, you conserve energy, and that energy is what feeds consistency.
Which brings us to the daily maintenance rule. It's not some grand gesture.
No, not at all. The daily maintenance rule for attitude is adjustment, not overhaul. One small correction a day. Maybe you just remove one complaint you were about to say out loud, or you soften one perspective you were holding really rigidly, or you just delay one reaction by 10 seconds. That's it. That small daily correction is what shifts the entire baseline over time. It's the constant tiny course correction of the ship that prevents you from drifting miles off course.
And once that baseline shifts, you stop being your own worst enemy.
You stop unconsciously blocking your own progress, which is the perfect lead-in to our next system.
Communication. So if attitude is about managing your internal baseline, communication, our second system, is about managing the external one. And again, a total reframe here. Most people, especially in business, they focus on speaking well. Eloquence, perfect grammar.
Expression.
Right, expression.
But the sources are so insistent on this point. Communication is not what you say. It is, and this is crucial, what lands.
Oof. That flips the responsibility completely, doesn't it?
It does. It moves communication from being a personal act expression to a relational act of alignment.
So I can say something perfectly, but if it doesn't land right,
Then you failed to communicate. You can have flawless grammar and still create total misalignment because you didn't think about the other person's context, their timing, their emotional state.
so alignment is the goal.
Alignment is the whole game. Perfect expression can lead to misunderstanding, but, minimal speaking with deep presence and high trust, that can build incredible clarity and speed. The difference is all in your emotional regulation, your tone, your pace, your presence.
That brings up what the sources call the quiet killer of communication. Assumption. How does that work?
Assumption is where the misalignment grows silently, like mold in a wall. We assume people understand our intentions. Of course I meant that as a compliment.
Right. How could they take it any other way?
Exactly. We assume they interpret our words or even our silences the same way we do. But they never do. We fill in the gaps with our story, they fill in the gaps with theirs.
And that gap just gets wider and wider.
It widens silently, building up this tension, and then it either explodes in a big conflict or, more often, it turns into distance, passive aggression.
So the daily maintenance, the check-ins, that's what prevents the buildup.
That's what prevents the toxic buildup. And the hitting cost of not doing that is, again, it's not a dramatic fight. It's quiet erosion.
What does that look like?
It looks like fewer calls, shorter, vaguer replies to your emails, less cooperation. Goodwill, that invisible currency in any relationship, it just starts to deplete.
And once the trust is gone,
Once trust erodes, Everything costs more. Every request requires more friction, more justification, more effort. You're constantly paying this alignment tax.
Okay, so if the goal is alignment, where's the real leverage? Most people think it's in having a better vocabulary.
And the sources are clear. The real leverage is listening. The best communicators, they actually talk less.
They listen for what's not being said.
Exactly. They listen for what is avoided, what is clearly emotional, and what is defensive. That level of deep listening, it creates safety. And when people feel safe, they get honest. And honesty creates speed.
I think we need to make a distinction there because most of us we wait for our turn to speak. That's what we call listening.
That is absolutely not listening. That's competitive listening. You're just listening to reply, to correct, or to defend your own point. That automatically creates resistance in the other person.
So what's the alternative?
The alternative is listening to genuinely understand, to process their information without judgment. When you do that, you can literally feel the resistance melt away. People relax when they feel seen.
And relaxed people cooperate.
Relaxed people are high cooperation individuals. And this kind of listening also lets you manage the emotional temperature of a conversation.
Emotional temperature.
Yeah, every important interaction has one. If it gets too hot, it's conflict. Too cold, it's disengagement. Good communication holds it steady, it regulates. It doesn't escalate by getting defensive, but it also doesn't suppress the truth by avoiding the hard stuff.
And that takes a ton of self-control, especially the discipline of saying less.
A huge amount.
Yeah.
Because excess words just increase the risk of misunderstanding. Words aren't neutral. Precision builds authority. People trust those who choose their words carefully and aren't in a rush to fill every silence.
The pause is powerful.
The pause is control, not weakness. It lowers the emotional charge, and it clarifies your own intent before you speak.
So the daily maintenance rule here is all about calibration.
It's all calibration. You don't need to be charismatic. You just need to be predictable and clear. So each day, you just aim to listen one level deeper, speak one level slower, and respond one level calmer.
That's the practice.
That's the whole practice. It improves trust. And trust is the delivery system for everything else.
Okay, if alignment requires that much control, that leads us right into the next system, our ability to regulate ourselves. Which brings us to self-discipline. This one is probably the most misunderstood system of all. I mean, the common idea is that discipline is about forcing yourself to do hard things. It's pressure, struggle, suffering.
And that's exactly why people burn out. The source is just, they flip the script completely on this one. Discipline is not about force. It's about trust.
Self-trust.
Self-trust. It is the system that determines whether you actually believe yourself when you say, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll be consistent this week. The entire structure of a stable life depends on knowing that you will follow your own instructions.
That's a really deep concept.
It is. Because when you repeatedly break those promises to yourself, I'll start on Monday, this time will be different, your nervous system is actually recording that data.
It's learning.
It's learning that your intentions can be ignored, that your goals and deadlines are optional. Your own mind stops taking you seriously. And once that internal trust is broken, everything feels heavy.
Habits feel forced. Motivation disappears.
And goals feel like someone else's idea because your identity is fundamentally out of sync with your actions.
So, if I'm getting this right, discipline isn't about doing these huge, impressive feats. It's about closing the small loops.
That is it, 100%. Discipline is the unglamorous, boring work of closing small loops. Finishing what you start, showing up when it's tedious, doing the 15 minutes of work you promised yourself, even when you don't feel like it.
And every time you do that.
Every single time, no matter how small the action, you are reinforcing the single most critical message to your internal system. I can trust myself. And that certainty, that's peace. It cuts down on all that internal negotiation that just drains our energy.
And here's the paradox that I think really dismantles that discipline is suffering myth.
Go on.
Undisciplined living causes more suffering than discipline ever could.
So much more. The undisciplined life is defined by guilt, chronic stress, mental clutter, procrastination, low self-respect.
Right. Discipline removes that chaos. It simplifies life. Less choice, less debate. The sources said it beautifully. Structure is relief.
Structure is relief. And you don't need motivation for it. Motivation is an emotion. It comes and goes. Discipline is a machine. It stays.
So disciplined people aren't chasing a feeling.
No. They're designing systems. They reduce the number of decisions they have to make. They remove friction. The real secret is that discipline isn't just willpower. It's the alignment of your environment, your routine, and your identity.
Explain that.
When your surroundings and your daily habits make the right action the easiest action, discipline stops feeling heroic. It just becomes the default.
That makes so much sense. We treat motivation like it's the fuel, but really, structure is the engine.
Exactly.
But what happens when you fail? Because everyone misses a day. Everyone breaks a streak.
Failure's not missing a day, that's just data. The sources are so clear on this. True failure is not returning.
Ah.
The real power of discipline is the ability to get back to your structure the very next day, without all the drama and guilt and self-flagellation. That calm resumption of effort is what compounds.
The moment you decide to return without punishing yourself, you're rebuilding that self-trust.
You're reaffirming the entire system. And when this system is strong, your energy is protected, your focus is cleaner, and your confidence is quiet but unshakable. Not because you're perfect, but because you know you are reliable to yourself.
And reliability compounds faster than talent.
Or luck, every single time. Which brings us to building that internal integrity.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're moving now to the system that quietly wrecks all the self-discipline we just talked about. Beliefs. This is the internal ceiling. You've seen this a million times, I'm sure. Someone is perfect discipline for, say, 6 weeks. They start succeeding, and then boom, they hit a wall.
Yeah, they hesitate, they distract themselves. It feels like self-sabotage.
It is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
But the sources argue it's not laziness or emotional weakness.
It feels like it, though.
I know. But it's actually a logical systemic response. Self-sabotage is what happens when your behavior starts to move beyond the boundaries of what your mind believes is safe or familiar or consistent with your identity.
So the mind's goal is consistency, not success.
Exactly. Your mind is designed to keep you consistent with who you believe you are. So when your progress starts to challenge that core identity, say, you start making more money than you ever thought was possible for someone like you.
Or you get a level of influence you feel you don't deserve.
Right. Your mind steps in to correct the course. It introduces hesitation, doubt, distraction. Anything to bring your behavior back in line with the old, familiar belief. It sounds reasonable in your head. I should take a break. I need to be realistic. But it's a systemic brake pedal.
This is why discipline alone isn't enough.
It's never enough. Discipline is the engine pushing you forward, but your beliefs define the ceiling. And when those two are in conflict, your beliefs will win every single time.
And you don't just quit.
No, you drift. You lose your urgency. You start justifying why you're avoiding the work. And you tell yourself you'll get back to it later, usually after the evidence of your success is faded and that old, comfortable identity feels safe again.
Wow. That's powerful. It's like our beliefs are the actual operating code for our nervous system.
They are. Beliefs aren't just thoughts. They're the assumptions your nervous system treats as hard facts. They dictate what level of stress feels normal, what kind of partner you deserve, what risks feel necessary.
What level of income is realistic?
All of it. And they're often not even ours. They're inherited, absorbed from childhood, or frozen into place by one really painful failure. So anything that challenges them, even a positive change, feels profoundly uncomfortable. And that discomfort is the alarm your mind uses to slow you down.
And these beliefs are reinforced every day.
Every single day, unconsciously. Every comparison you make, every time you're tired, it all reinforces the old system. If you don't actively work to update those beliefs, they just default to old data.
Yeah.
And old data produces old behavior.
So how do you change them? You can't just argue with yourself.
You can't. Affirmations don't work if the underlying system rejects them. Beliefs change through lived, repeated evidence.
These small wins.
Small, calm wins. Every time you succeed, not with a lot of hype, but with quiet, sustainable effort, your nervous system updates its model of who you are. It's accepting new evidence. It's not about the size of the win. It's about the continuity of the evidence.
Yeah.
Slowly, the new, stronger identity becomes the baseline, and the resistance just fades away.
What are some of the most dangerous beliefs we should look out for? The ones we don't even notice.
The sources highlight the ones that sound like wisdom but are actually just limitations. Things like, oh, I work best under pressure.
Which is just a justification for procrastination.
Exactly. Or I'm just not a morning person, which is a limit on your energy. Or the big one, this is just how I've always been.
I refusal to adapt.
It's a conclusion frozen into an identity.
Yeah.
So the daily maintenance rule for this system is just pure awareness. It's noticing the exact moment your mind tries to lower the standard or delay the action, and then choosing not to obey.
Neutrally. Without beating yourself up.
Neutrally. Without emotion. That neutral refusal introduces choice, where there used to be an automatic program running. And when your beliefs finally align with your behavior, discipline stops feeling heavy. It just becomes the path of least resistance.
Okay, so if self-trust is the engine and beliefs are the ceiling, then focus is the navigational system. This is a big one for our audience, the high-achieving learners.
A huge one.
Most people tell themselves the problem is time. I don't have enough time. But the sources are so clear on this. Time is the constant. Attention is the variable.
Everyone gets 24 hours. The difference is what you allow your attention to touch.
And the key insight is that focus isn't something you find, it's something you protect.
It had to be actively protected. And protection implies there's a threat. And there is. Your attention is under a relentless constant attack from novelty, urgency, comfort.
Noise.
It fragments automatically. And that fragmentation is what creates that awful feeling of being busy all day, completely exhausted, but having achieved nothing deep or meaningful. You're trading depth for breadth, and the cost is just crippling.
And it happens through these tiny, harmless-seeming leaks.
The smallest leaks. A quick notification on your phone, a thought loop about what's for dinner, a quick check of a website. None of them feel dangerous on their own.
But they add up.
They drain cognitive energy through what psychologists call attention residue. You try to go back to your deep work, but a little piece of your mind is still stuck on the last thing you checked. This is why standard time management fails.
Because you're just organizing hours.
You're trying to organize hours instead of controlling inputs. You're trying to add water to a leaking bucket.
That's a great way to put it. So focus isn't about intensity, it's about containment.
Precisely. Deep work needs depth, not duration. And that depth only appears when your attention stays in one place long enough for something meaningful to happen.
And the mind wanders because it's looking for relief.
Exactly. The mind wanders not because it's weak, but because discomfort. The boredom of a hard task, the uncertainty of a complex problem. It triggers the mind to seek simulation. That quick check of your phone feels like relief, but it costs you continuity. And continuity is the currency of deep work.
So you need rules, not just willpower.
You must rely on rules over willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. It cannot compete with the fire hose of stimulation we face today. The people who protect their focus, they have strict, non-negotiable rules for their environment.
Like what?
Simple things. My phone goes in a drawer from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Or I only check email after my most important task is done. These rules remove the need to negotiate with yourself every 5 minutes, which is what drains all your energy.
This also just completely dismantles the multitasking myth.
Oh, it destroys it. The sources are definitive.
Yeah.
Multitasking is cognitive sucking. And every time you switch, you pay a high biological price. The quality of your work drops, your memory gets weaker, and your fatigue goes up exponentially.
You feel busy, but you're not productive.
You feel busy, which gives you the illusion of productivity, but you're just paying a massive transaction fee with every switch.
And you linked this back to our emotional baseline earlier. You said focus is emotional regulation disguised as time management.
It is. When your emotional noise is high, you're stressed about money, there's friction in a relationship, your focus just collapses. And when focus collapses, time feels scarce. You start rushing, which leads to bad decisions, which leads to more stress.
It's a vicious cycle.
A total loop. Breaking that loop means slowing your attention down, not speeding your behavior up. When your attention is contained, time feels spacious. When it's scattered, time feels oppressive.
So the daily maintenance rule is just that, reclaiming it every single day.
Every day. Distraction renews daily, so your defense must renew daily. It starts with awareness, noticing where your attention is escaping. And then you calmly close those leaks and you return to the task without drama.
That act of returning.
The calm, non-judgmental act of returning, again and again. That's the whole practice. It ensures you stop wasting your finite energy on scattered, low-impact work.
All right, let's move to learning, which the sources frame as the system of relevance.
Yes. The danger here isn't failing a big exam. It's the quiet comfort of just relying on what used to work, while the world silently moves on without you.
It feels safe, but it's actually the most dangerous place to be. And the cost of skipping this system is severe.
It's a predictable decay. Your ideas get old, your skills plateau, and your confidence starts to erode. Not because you're failing, but because you're not sure if your knowledge is relevant anymore.
So you hesitate. You avoid challenges.
You avoid challenges you used to handle easily. The sources are clear. Learning is not a hobby for the curious. It's a fundamental survival system for the competitive.
And the system isn't about studying harder.
No, that's often just noise. The real system is exposure and integration. Every day, You intentionally expose your mind to something just a little bit beyond its current limits.
A new framework, a different point of view.
A concept from a totally different field. And then, this is the key part, you critically integrate it. You ask, how does this change the way I see my own work?
And even just 10 minutes a day makes a huge difference.
Huge! Not because 10 minutes is a lot of time, but because of the continuity. That continuous exposure keeps you mentally elastic. It prevents your thinking from getting rigid. You stop fearing change because you're constantly adapting in these tiny little increments.
And the leverage here is that it's not about knowing more facts. It's about thinking better.
It's about cultivating better questions, more robust mental models. The more you learn and integrate, the faster you recognize patterns and spot opportunities that other people miss.
So when a new challenge comes up,
your mind can instantly map it onto an existing framework. Without this system, your hard work just becomes outdated. You can work incredibly hard, but in the wrong direction, because the map you're using is obsolete.
this system also actively protects your confidence.
It does. Because consistent learning means you trust your own ability to adapt. When the market changes, opportunity recognizes you first, because you have the necessary context.
Okay, our final system in this section, and this might be the one that causes the most pervasive stress, financial pressure management.
Yes. And the core desire here, for most people, isn't to be fabulously wealthy. It's just relief.
Relief from that constant low-grade hum of anxiety that never fully shuts off. That background pressure is so relatable. People think money problems stay in their bank account, but they leak into everything.
They absolutely do. The impact of financial pressure is immense. It fundamentally changes how you think, how you sleep, your patience with your family.
Your tolerance for disrespect at work.
Your willingness to take good, long-term risks. Money, in this context, is really about bandwidth, mental bandwidth. When financial pressure is high, that bandwidth shrinks dramatically.
Your brain gets hijacked.
Your prefrontal cortex gets hijacked by stress. It forces short-term thinking and rushed, poor decisions. You're always choosing the quick fix over the long-term system.
And the critical insight here is that financial stress isn't just about a lack of income.
Rarely. It's caused by lack of structure. I mean, we all know people making six figures who are terrified and stressed because there's zero predictability in their financial life.
Right. Money without a system is emotional.
Purely emotional. It's wild excitement one month and sheer panic the next. But money with a system, it becomes boring. And the sources say boring is powerful. A system reduces the chaos and creates predictability. It creates options.
And the first mistake people make is trying to feel rich before they are stable.
Yes. They upgrade their lifestyle before they upgrade their structure. But the pressure comes from exposure, from fragility, not from how little you have.
Yeah.
So the system has to start with one core principle. Reduce fragility first.
So it's about creating margin.
Margin. Not just excess. Margin in your spending, in your obligations, in your commitments. That space relaxes your nervous system. And when your nervous system relaxes, the quality of your decisions across your entire life improves dramatically.
So it's a stability-first approach. And that requires managing the emotional connection we have to money.
It's key. You have to emotionally separate. Money is just information. It's feedback on your systems. It is not your identity. It's not your self-worth.
But people personalize it. A bad month means I am a failure.
They do. A healthy system makes your finances neutral. It allows for calm, objective responses. You don't celebrate a good month by immediately spending it. You treat it as data to inform the system.
And you need predictability, not certainty.
Right. You don't need to know exactly how much you'll make next year, but you need to know your minimums, your buffers, your levers. What happens if your income drops by 30%? Knowing that decreases the panic.
And you have to track it.
Non-negotiable. You have to track it honestly, not obsessively. Ignoring the numbers just delays awareness, and delayed awareness is always the most expensive lesson.
We also have to prioritize protecting the future.
Yes, which means you deliberately stop borrowing peace from the future for comfort today. High-interest debt that buys some temporary, unnecessary relief just multiplies the pressure down the road.
So every dollar has a job.
Every dollar has a role. To protect your base, to grow your assets, or to support your quality of life.
And this system has a huge impact on our other systems, like discipline and communication.
Immense. Financial pressure destroys self-respect. It erodes your boundaries. It forces you to take on work you hate or tolerate disrespect because you feel like you have no other choice.
But removing that pressure restores your dignity.
It restores dignity. It allows for calm, profitable waiting. And people with margin, they can afford to wait for the right opportunity, the right client, the right negotiation. Waiting is power.
So the daily maintenance rule here is just consistent awareness.
A few minutes of quiet, honest review. It prevents emergencies and saves years of stress. Money stops being this overwhelming goal, and it just becomes the quiet byproduct of stability, skill, and patience. And it buys you the one thing you really need: space. Space to think and choose.
And the sources say that space is the highest form of currency a learner can acquire.
It is. Which brings us to our final section on the multipliers.
The sustainability systems.
Yeah.
Let's start with personal growth.
All right, so if beliefs define the ceiling, then personal growth is the system that actively expands that ceiling. This system determines your ultimate capacity. You can only sustain the results that match who you are.
Right. Anything above your current capacity feels unstable, and anything below feels frustrating.
And just like with learning, people confuse the activity with the actual change. Reading more books, chasing inspiration. That's surface level.
It feels like growth, but it's not structural.
Exactly. Real growth is structural. It actually reshapes how you think, how you respond under pressure, and how you choose when no one is watching.
And if you skip this, you can get the promotion, the money, but you haven't outgrown yourself.
Right. You end up wanting these new outcomes, but you're still relying on old behaviors. That's the source of what the sources call internal friction, that feeling of being stuck, but you can't quite articulate why.
So the purpose of the system is capacity building.
It's capacity building. Growth aligns your inner capabilities with your future goals by systematically removing the outdated beliefs and habits that might have protected you in the past, but are now restricting you.
And the key leverage here is self-awareness.
Self-awareness without judgment. That's the key. You can't change what you can't see. Most people avoid looking too closely at themselves because it's uncomfortable. But when you can calmly and neutrally observe your own triggers, your avoidance patterns, you regain choice.
You can adjust the faulty programming because you've seen it.
You've identified it. And this ties so deeply back to emotional regulation. The source is really stressed that growth requires regulating your emotions, not suppressing them.
That is the single most powerful shift, isn't it?
It is. Unregulated emotion, anger, fear, even unchecked excitement. It hijacks your behavior. It leads to impulsive, destructive decisions. When you grow emotionally, you don't stop feeling things. You just stop being controlled by them.
You practice the pause.
You respond instead of react. You pause instead of explode. That stabilization is what allows all your other systems, your discipline, your focus, your communication, to actually work properly.
Growth also expands what you can handle without breaking.
Yes. Life is going to apply pressure. Without growth, that pressure just overwhelms you. It leads to burnout. But with growth, that same pressure strengthens you. This is why people who avoid the internal work feel like life is just getting heavier and heavier.
The weight increases, but their capacity to carry it stays the same.
Exactly. Growth also radically changes how you see failure. Without growth, failure feels personal and final. It confirms your old limiting beliefs.
See, I knew I couldn't do it.
Right. But with growth, failure just becomes information. Okay, what did I do wrong here? What is this teaching me? How do I adapt? That shift alone saves years of emotional damage.
And growth upgrades your internal standards.
It does. It makes low-quality boundaries, toxic environments, and inconsistent effort feel deeply uncomfortable. And when your internal standards are high, you just naturally pull away from things that don't serve you. That discomfort forces change organically.
So the daily maintenance rule for personal growth is radical honesty.
Honesty about the discomfort you're avoiding and the actions you're postponing. And then small upgrades. A calmer response today, a clearer boundary tomorrow. Growth is the glue. If you don't actively shape who you're becoming, the stress of life will do it for you.
Okay, system 9, purpose. The sources suggest that a lot of high achievers wake up tired not because they lack energy, but because their effort has no clear destination.
They're misdirected. Effort scatters without a purpose. It compounds with a purpose. Without this filter, busyness just replaces meaning, and achievement replaces fulfillment.
You become incredibly good at climbing the wrong ladder.
The wrong ladder entirely. And purpose, in this context, isn't some vague passion you find on a retreat. It's a directional filter. It's an organizing principle that takes all your scattered energy and aims it at something coherent.
So effort feels justified. even when it's hard.
It feels justified. People with a clear purpose can endure discomfort for much longer because they're clear on why they're fighting.
And the mistake people make is waiting for this grand final answer. They treat it like a treasure hunt.
That is the trap. Purpose emerges through action, not before it. You don't find your purpose by thinking harder in a quiet room. You find it by engaging with life, by noticing what pulls you, what problems you actually enjoy solving.
So it sharpens over time.
It sharpens and evolves. You start small, and it refines itself through continuous engagement.
And this system needs daily maintenance because our direction drifts so easily.
It drifts daily. Distraction, pressure from other people, comparison. They all pull you off course. Without that clear directional filter, you just end up reacting to life's immediate demands instead of steering your own ship. You prioritize the urgent over the meaningful.
That reactivity is the definition of drift.
It is. And purpose brings this quiet, powerful authority back into your decisions. You stop needing external validation. Instead, you're constantly asking yourself, does this action move me closer to what actually matters?
Which allows you to say no to a lot of things.
It allows for highly selective effort. You say no to 90% of the opportunities, which frees you up to build depth instead of breadth. And for a lot of people, that is the biggest relief, realizing they need to do less, but more aligned, focused work.
And purpose is also the ultimate protection against the comparison trap.
Oh, absolutely. When you know your direction, other people's paths lose their power over you. You see someone succeeding in a totally different field, and it doesn't sting, because their success isn't your destination.
The question changes from, am I ahead of them?
To the much more stabilizing question, am I aligned with what I promised myself?
And when things get hard, purpose provides the context.
It reframes the struggle. It stops feeling pointless and random. It becomes necessary friction, and that understanding creates endurance.
The sources also mention that purpose gains gravity when it includes contribution.
Yes. It becomes much harder to abandon when it expands to include service beyond the self. Effort that improves something larger than your own ego or bank account just. It gains this inherent weight. Purely self-centered goals often collapse under pressure because they lack that sustaining gravity.
So the daily maintenance rule here is reflection and adjustment.
Just that. What specific action am I taking today that serves my long-term direction? What problems do I want to be solving in 5 years? This prevents years of drift, and it ensures that the sacrifices you made feel chosen, not imposed on you.
And finally, we end with System 10, gratitude, which the sources frame not as a soft skill, but as a critical multiplier system.
Structurally necessary. It's so misunderstood as just being polite or positive.
A nice to have.
Right. But its structural purpose is to amplify the effect of every other system we've discussed. And it does that by reducing internal friction. Without gratitude, all your progress just feels heavy.
And this is because of the never enough syndrome.
The never enough syndrome. It's a real psychological mechanism called the hedonic treadmill.
Hey.
Your mind naturally adapts upward. What was amazing progress yesterday is just the new expected baseline today.
So you get the raise?
You get the 10% raise, and within 3 months, you've adapted. You're just as dissatisfied as you were before, and you're already looking for the next thing. That constant adaptation just drains your energy. Gratitude is the system that closes that massive energy leak.
I've heard the argument, though, that gratitude leads to complacency, that if you're satisfied, you won't strive. How do the sources handle that?
They say that gratitude doesn't replace ambition. It stabilizes it. It makes your ambition cleaner, less desperate, less reactive.
So you're not pursuing goals to feel whole.
You're pursuing them because they align with your purpose, not because you desperately need them to fix something you think is broken inside you. You can be deeply satisfied with who you are and be incredibly ambitious for what you're building.
The combination of discipline and gratitude is powerful.
It's magnetic. Effort without gratitude feels like an obligation. I have to do this. Effort with gratitude feels like an investment. I get to do this.
So discipline gets you to show up.
And gratitude reminds you why the work matters and helps you see how far you've already come. When those two combine, consistency becomes natural.
Gratitude also protects against bitterness.
It does. It reframes your effort as something you chose, not something you're owed, which restores your sense of agency.
And it's essential for integration.
It slows you down just enough to actually process and internalize your growth. Without it, you just rush from one goal to the next without absorbing the lessons. You get a big win, but you never pause to acknowledge the skill and patience that went into it.
That pause builds real confidence.
It builds process-based confidence. You learn to respect who you're becoming, not just what you're achieving.
And finally, the sources say gratitude is a perception sharpener.
Absolutely. Scarcity and dissatisfaction literally narrow your attention. You only see what's missing. Gratitude widens your perception. It helps you notice opportunities and resources faster because you aren't blinded by lack.
Grateful minds see options. Ungrateful minds see threats.
Even in the exact same environment, gratitude dramatically improves the quality of your thinking. So the daily maintenance rule here is just simple acknowledgement.
Not forced positivity.
No, not cheesy affirmations, just a calm, honest recognition of your effort, your learning, your capacity, especially on the hard days. It contextualizes the hardship.
The internal dialogue becomes, this is hard and I'm capable.
This is hard, and look at the resources I have to handle it. That simple dialogue stops the energy leak of resentment, reclaims your focus, and reinvests it directly into your own growth. It's the final system, because it holds everything else together.
This has been an incredibly structural deep dive. We've analyzed these 10 quiet systems of life maintenance: attitude, communication, discipline, beliefs, focus, learning, financial management, personal growth, purpose, and finally, gratitude.
Ew.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? It means that real long-term success isn't built in these dramatic, applauded breakthroughs. It's built through continuity and maintenance, the quiet, boring work that nobody ever sees.
These systems are the foundational architecture. They're what keeps you from drifting. They prevent the collapse long before it ever becomes visible or loud.
The shift in action is profound. I mean, when you maintain your emotional baseline with your attitude, you stop reacting and you save all that energy.
And when you keep promises to yourself, with discipline, that self-trust rebuilds and your goals feel lighter.
When you protect your attention with focus, time stops leaking away. When you consistently update your knowledge with learning, your relevance just compounds.
And when gratitude is actively maintained, everything else just multiplies because all that internal friction is gone. This is the quiet, deliberate way that strong lives are built.
What's so fascinating here is just how quiet true change really is. Real maintenance doesn't feel dramatic. It feels, well, quieter, less chaotic, more grounded.
Right. The goal of using these systems isn't to get you hyped up with a sudden burst of energy. It's to stabilize you with unwavering reliability. The external results, the success that will eventually catch up to the quality of your internal structure.
So the final provocative thought for you to explore as you go about your day, building your own foundational architecture, is this. If real maintenance and true change don't feel dramatic, what is the loudest, most chaotic thing in your life right now that you need to quiet down to protect your systems?